A Fox News alert. The U.S. seizes fuel cargo from 4 Iranian oil tankers. It is a historic enforcement of President Trump's sanctions.
Middle East expert Cory says it's refreshing to see a president who doesn't bow down to foreign leaders. He joins us now with reaction. Cory, what is the significance of this move?
Well, it's of extreme significance. Look, this president has done more to try and hold Iran and our adversaries accountable than anyone before him. He got us out of a very failed deal, which is the JCPOA, where the Obama administration and Biden had provided $150 billion, which helped to bail out Iran to advance their nuclear programs and to fund militias, which were essentially being run by Qasem Soleimani, the former Quds Force commander in Yemen, Syria, Iraq, and Lebanon. This seizure, the approach that he's taken to hold our adversaries accountable, is exactly what America wants to see. Not someone who's bowing down and going around on an apology tour to foreign leaders like the Obama-Biden administration.
Cory, can we expect any retaliation from this?
Well, there's always going to be a threat and retaliation. The biggest thing that I think that we'll see is an increase or a heightened attack within Iraq. I think that you'll see the utilization of Hashd al-Shaabi, as well as for the Lebanese-supported and Iranian-supported militia, the Kata'ib Hezbollah. And you'll see those attacks probably on Taji Air Base, as well as for a couple of Katyusha rockets that I would expect to be fired within the Green Zone area targeting the U.S. Embassy, which we've just seen a couple nights ago that impacted one of the suspension bridges there. So I think you're going to see a lot more of the proxy militia attacks. I don't think you'll see anything openly advert by the Iranians, as we watch where they fired 15 missiles only about 6 months ago, which had no real impact. But the reality is that this president's not going to stand for the highest, largest funding of a state-funded terrorism, which is what Iran is continuing to try and do to target the United States as well as for our allies.
Cory, this incident, part of a big 24 hours on the world stage. President Trump announcing historic peace agreements between Israel and the UAE, the United Arab Emirates. Take a listen.
After half a century, Israel and the United Arab Emirates will fully normalize their diplomatic relations.
Very optimistic that today's announcement with the UAE will be followed by more Arab nations joining our region's circle of peace.
Cory, how groundbreaking is this agreement?
This is exceptionally groundbreaking. And again, I think that this president needs to go from being the previous deal maker to the one who's being the actual peacemaker. The UAE joins only 3 other Arab countries, one which was Egypt in 1979 and now with Jordan in 1994. So this has been 26 years in the making. But the biggest historic element of this is that this is the first time that an Arab nation has recognized Israel as an actual state. And I watch where Bahrain has actually come forward and even congratulated Mohammed bin Zayed as well as for Bibi Netanyahu. So I don't think that this will be the only Gulf country cooperation who will move forward with making a very similar agreement to normalize diplomatic relations between Israel and the Gulf states who are facing the same adversary, which again is Iran.
Real quick before we let you go, there's been a network of fake Chinese accounts online that have reportedly been posting videos in English, a lot of these criticizing President Trump over things like, threatening to ban TikTok, everything that's gone on with coronavirus, the closure of China's consulate in Houston, a number of topics there. The question is, how much of a threat is this, and who's the target audience for these videos?
Well, look, it's not something that's new with regards to foreign interference campaigns. What's really happened is there's an acute challenge with the resurgence of geopolitical great power adversaries like Russia and China, who utilize the digital revolution to try and flood these public spheres with misinformation. And, we've seen where Nancy Pelosi's come forward and said that China would absolutely prefer Joe Biden. And of course she would, because China knows that this president has balanced this trade imbalance that had existed for decades. He's held them accountable, allowed our agricultural sections and our manufacturing to come back home. And again, we're now in a America first mentality, and that's what this president was going for from the beginning.
Okay. Cory Mills, thank you very much for joining us for your insight. We appreciate it.
Jillian, Todd, thank you for having me.